Hi there, my name is Graeme Codrington, and I'm going to be talking to you about building healthy hybrid teams. Some of what we need to get our heads around over the next few months and years, as we'll see, as the world of work changes forever. We've pre-recorded this session. It's just easier for the technology, but I'm going to be joining the session in the background. And so you can use the chat function to connect with me. As I join the session, I'll be able to engage with chat if everything goes according to plan. And I'll be available live at the end of the session to answer questions. So maybe throw questions in to the chat box as we go along. And then at the end, I'll be there to interact and to talk live together. We're talking about how to build healthy hybrid teams. And let's start by just acknowledging that the hybrid workplace is here to stay. Now, what do I mean by hybrid? It's more than just being flexible. It's more than just having some people dialing in or some people having flexible working hours. Hybrid is where you've got some people in the room and some people, like myself and my colleague Boosley in this meeting, dialing in from remote locations. And hybrid is really hard. If everybody's in the room, you can work in one way. If everybody's dialing in, you can work in a different way. But when you've got this sort of almost unlimited flexibility and you're not quite sure who's going to be where, well, it makes life really, really difficult. And it's here to stay for at least 5 reasons. The first is that COVID has shown us it's possible. 2 years ago, we wouldn't have thought that we would be able to work from home as we have done. Might not have been your favorite 2 years, the last 2 years of lockdown and the COVID chaos. But it's possible, right? And we've probably done better than we thought we would. And a lot of people have said, we can do this. The second reason is then the so-called digital natives. Mainly younger people, but not only younger people. I think I fit into this category. If I'm not a digital native, I'm at least a digital immigrant. By personality and with my technology abilities, I love the space that we're in. And I'm very comfortable to stay in the space. For the last 20 years, I've traveled all over the world. I've loved every minute of it. But for the last 20 months, I've been stuck in a green screen studio that I built in a garage, a converted garage at my house, and I'm loving it as well. And I think that the third reason flows out of that, and that is the so-called fourth industrial revolution or digital transformation has all been accelerated over the last little while. But I know a lot of my clients who sort of had 5 to 7 year plans to introduce e-commerce, to change to smart contracting, to do all sorts of digital transformations. They've actually accelerated those plans over the last few months and delivered them during COVID. And what the fourth industrial revolution, that's cloud mobility and robotic automation and predictive data analytics and artificial intelligence, all of that stuff. All of that is promising that the world of work is going to change dramatically, and quite a lot of that shift towards automation means that human beings don't have to congregate at an office anymore. There's lots of machines to do the work. That can be scary if we lose our ability to do work in the system, but it's not scary if we discover our humanity. Now, humanity is not being stuck in an office sitting on a computer all day, is it? A fourth reason is even more powerful, and that is before lockdown happened, there was already research going on all around the world into more flexible working, working from home. Not sure we were using the word hybrid so much, but I've been following this kind of research for nearly a decade. One of the guys who's doing most of it is a professor out of Stanford called Nicholas Bloom, or he goes by Nick Bloom now. He did a fantastic TED Talk 6 years ago called "Tell Your Boss You're Going to Work From Home and It's Going to Be Okay." What a brilliant title. And it's still well worth watching, where he talks about a whole lot of research that he's done, especially some experiments with companies who were a little bit ahead of their time. talking about research, we've done a whole lot of research over the last 18 months to just prove the point. Here's Nicholas Bloom's research and the Chinese company, but there's all sorts of other research. Let me just get out of the way here for you so that you can see that a bit more clearly. Everything from some existing models like Dan Pink's motivation model and Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, to work that guys like Ricardo Semler have been doing on bringing flexibility to factory environments. Anyway, you see there's a whole list there. I'm not going to take more time from our session today. Here's a link if you would like to go and have a look at that research in a little bit more detail. By the way, you will get a copy of the slides after this presentation, so you'll be able to access, or if you're taking notes, just write it down as you see it there. The fifth reason is that we now have more technology tools available to us. It's not just the fourth industrial revolution, but we've got tools in the palms of our hands, in those smartphones you've got in front of you, that make mobility and movement and getting away from the office much easier, much more accessible to everybody. And if you're watching this here in South Africa, I mean, our data speeds are increasing and the data prices are at last starting to come down. So there's all sorts of reasons why we can de-link ourselves from being in an office all day, every day. Now, the implications of that are maybe even bigger than you think, because very soon people are going to work out that geography is basically dead. If I don't have to go to the office, well, then I don't have to live in the same city as my job. In fact, I don't even have to work in the same time zone as my job. And so what's going to be happening over the next little while is that we are going to be seeing a lot of people moving on. Part of that is because we've overworked people. We thought initially that everybody working from home would make people lazy. You know, they'd succumb to the 3 dangers of home working: the fridge, the TV, and the bed. That's why a lot of companies didn't allow it before lockdown. Now we know the opposite is true. You might have some lazy people in the system, I get that. But in general, most people who've been working from home for the last 18 months have worked harder than they've ever worked before and are more exhausted than they've felt in a long time. Microsoft have done some research on this in a fantastic, do a search for this. It came out earlier this year in terms of the hybrid workplace and are we ready for it? What a quote. I was going to say a great quote. It's a powerful but scary quote. That high productivity, lots of people doing lots of things, us being busy all the time, is masking an exhausted workforce. That's going to come back to bite us. All of this adds up to one of the key headline results of that survey that Microsoft did, is that a lot of people are looking to make some big changes. And of course, that's a problem for you. It's a problem for Avon, for the Nature Group. This is why we're having this conversation, right? This is why we need to be thinking about what we need to adjust, what changes we need to make in order to make the most of this hybrid environment. So I want to do 2 things for you to help you to answer this question. The first is I want to give you a framework for making decisions about hybrid working. And then I want to give you insights into some of our research into what a healthy hybrid team looks like. But first of all, a framework for decision making. If we agree, and I hope that you do, that hybrid is here to stay, that this sort of maximum flexibility workplace is here to stay, then maybe we should steal Microsoft's workplace policy. They updated it and released it in January this year. You don't have to go and search for it on Google. It's exactly 6 words long, and I can give it to you in full. Microsoft basically have said to all of their leaders and managers, provide as much flexibility as possible. That is the new policy. Now, every word in that sentence is important. As possible, not everybody can be flexible. You know, if you're a restaurant owner, you can't just suddenly randomly have flexible hours and your waiters arriving and leaving at any time they like. Not everybody can be flexible, but as flexible as possible and provide as much flexibility as possible. So if that's the goal, or at least a summary of the way that we need to be thinking, we need to be giving people as many options as possible. If they want to work at the office, let them work at the office. If they want to work at home, let them work at home. If a coffee shop's better, go to the coffee shop. If they prefer to work at night or the weekends, fine, provide as much flexibility as possible. But we've still got to get the job done. We've still got to make sure that we're delivering for our customers, and we've still got to act as a team if a team is required. So how do we do that? I think there are 3 questions that can guide us. The first question is, considering what has to be done, under what conditions will we do our best work? So we've got to sit down with our team, maybe firstly sit down with ourselves and say, okay, what has to be done? What do our clients want? What does the boss need? What are the projects that are underway? What is the work that has to be done? Now, for each of the tasks, for each of the jobs that has to be done, we ask, what's going to be the best way to get that done? What equipment, what resources? You see what I'm saying? We sort of reverse engineering this. We're not starting with, we have an office, you have to come to the office, and we've got working hours and you've got to be here in working hours. We're looking at it from what are the outputs that are required, and then asking what's the best way to do it. And by the way, the answer might be different on different days and different weeks. So this is not a question you ask once. You're asking this question over and over again. I'll come back to that in a second. So the second question is, if we do need to meet together, so if some kind of collaboration, some kind of team effort is required, then we don't have to default to the office for that to happen. We ask the question, what space is the best place? Where's the best place for us to go? If we do think that going to the office is the right thing to do, well, then is the office set up the way that it should be? You know, what is the office for now? We've had so much time away from it. Let's not just go back to the way it was. You might have to get somebody to put a bit of budget in to reconfigure the office so that it works for you. It becomes a space that is the best place for you. But it might be that a coffee shop or a hub somewhere where you know, you rent by the hour or by the day meeting room that's specifically perfect for what you're trying to do. Or it might just be that you log in online and work from home. Now, by the way, if you are going to meet people face to face, at least for the next little while, you have to have the conversation about safety. Now, whether that means you mandate vaccines or not, that's beyond my pay grade. Get the legal team, get the HR team, get the senior exec to make a decision. But whatever the decision is, we can't compromise safety. It's like we're all in a factory or a mining environment now where safety comes beyond and before anything else. And I think that we need to think about that. You make your choices, but it is a conversation you need to have. Once you've answered the second question, there's a third question hanging in the air, isn't there? What happens if we disagree? What happens if, as we have these discussions, you know, under what conditions will we do our best work, and where's the best space for us to meet? What happens if we disagree about that? Who makes the decisions then? Is the boss in charge, so the boss decides? So if your boss wants you in the office, you have to be in the office. Or is it a democracy? So we all vote and then majority rules. And if you get a 51% coming into the office, then everybody has to be in the office. Neither of those two options feel right to me, by the way. But I'm not sure what the best answer is. It really depends on you. It depends on your style, on your culture, on your leadership approach, on your management ability even. The point is, it's a conversation you have to have. It's almost a conversation about your conversations. How do we decide how we decide to make these decisions? Okay, does that make sense to you in what I've said? By the way, this is a diversity and inclusion issue, isn't it? Because Just like we've had to spend time over the last few years thinking about making sure that we include people whose voices maybe hadn't been heard before, I think we're going to have that same level of conversation now about hybrid working and working from home. There are some people, maybe if COVID is still in the system, they've got kids who are off school and need help. They've got an aging parent who maybe is sick, who needs looking after. They've got family issues that require them to be at home, or the opposite. I had a client last year who actually opened the office for a number of women because sadly, and this is a sad story, those women were being abused at home by a partner who had been also sent to work from home, and the two of them in the same space ended up in a very bad way. And so this firm said to 3 or 4 women, you can come into the office, even though you shouldn't really, because we understand these issues of diversity and equity and inclusion and fairness. I think the way that we treat our staff in terms of hybrid conversations has got to include some of what we've learned about D&I over the past few years. Of course, it might also include some conversations around employee benefits. Some companies, big companies globally, Apple, Facebook, are actually telling people that if they work from home, they're going to be paid a little bit less. There's some logic there, but I don't understand it. The company's saving money because they don't have to have an office for you and so on. But the companies are saying, well, there's no commuting time and so on. So, we're going to, anyway, again, beyond my pay grade, I don't think there's a magic formula. I don't think there's a right answer, but there are some important conversations because your decisions around where people work and how they work might result in people needing to upgrade their fiber lines at home, get better computers, maybe upgrade the lighting and the cameras in their office so that they can look smart. I hope I'm coming across as smart from my converted garage here at home. And, we've got to ask questions. Who pays for that? Is that something the employee pays for? Is that something you as the company will pay for? Because it sets your employees apart, especially if they're going to make client calls in the digital system and so on. There's lots of conversations to have. And by the way, I don't think you have this conversation once, as I said. I think you have it on an ongoing basis. In fact, I would schedule the conversation probably for a Friday afternoon, kind of as you're finishing out a week, assuming you finish out your week on a Friday afternoon. Think about the week ahead. What jobs have to be done and under what conditions will we do our best work? Where should we meet? Maybe you'll come up with a compromise solution of core hours. So say next week, because of what's happening, we need to be at the office for Tuesday morning and the whole of Wednesday. Or maybe you'll come up with core hours. Everybody has to be in the office from 11 till 2 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so that there's opportunity for creativity and collaboration and connection. I don't know. Again, I don't think that there is a right answer to the question. And by the way, there might even be a right answer for October that then is different for November and different again for December. I don't think you're going to end up at a point of saying, this is how it's going to be now, and we're in a regular work cycle that's the same. I think we're going to have to get used to adjusting and adapting. So you have the conversation sort of every Friday, looking a week ahead. You might even discover that there are some apps that you can use that would help you with scheduling. Our team does it very simply. We do it over the weekend. By Sunday night, you put in what your week looks like into a WhatsApp group that's specifically designed for that. And then by Sunday night, we've all got a sense of what everybody else is doing. We kind of agree on when we're going to meet and where we're going to meet during the week. And then we've done. We decided to do it over the weekend. The more I think about that, and every time I tell people we do that, the more I'm thinking we should probably bring it back and do it on a Friday afternoon and leave the weekends alone. But that's our problem, not yours. The point is you're constantly adapting and adjusting. So I hope that that's a useful way to have the conversation. I'm not telling you what the results of the conversation are going to be, but I think that's the conversation and the flow of the conversation that you want to have. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you is the results of our work over the last, well, it's 10 years really, but really intensively in the last 18 months on 5 ingredients of a healthy hybrid team. We've put it into a model that looks like this. This is not a new leadership competency framework. It's not a new model of team dynamics. We just call it 5 ingredients. Whatever approaches you've got, whatever values and whatever skill sets you're developing, whatever competency frameworks you've got, keep them. But what you need to do for hybrid working is you need to sprinkle your existing models with a little bit of salt and pepper and spices, right? Let's think of these ingredients as just the spice that really makes your team move from being a team to being a hybrid team, popping in this hybrid space. These are 5 areas you need to focus on. And I think as you just read the words there, belonging, mastery, autonomy, generosity, and purpose, they make sense. But let me explain them one by one and give you practical ideas of what you can do to improve each of them. So belonging. Belonging, I think, makes the most sense of all of these 5. It's your sense of connection, you're being part of a group, a tribe, a club, a team, whatever, an organization, whatever language you use. Some companies have been naturally good at doing this long before lockdown. Some companies have kind of realized during lockdown that they maybe weren't as good as they thought they were. A lot of companies got a false sense of belonging because everybody just came to the office every day. Just arriving at the office and being in the office with other people gave you a sense of, well, I'm part of this group. But now that you've been working at home, you realize you've disconnected. That's what a lot of people are feeling in the stress. They disconnected from each other. So how do we reconnect? How do we get that sense of team? Well, I think 2 things stand out for me. If we had the whole day together, there are 10, 20 examples I can give you, but let me just give you 1 or 2 kind of top ideas, and then you're going to have to do some work and take it from there. We need to build personal connections. That's the key to belonging, right? It's this feeling of connection with other human beings. Now, you build connections by hearing other people's stories, by getting a little bit of insight to their lives. And when you were in the physical space, you kind of got this by default. You'd arrive in the morning and you'd go to the kitchen, you'd make some coffee, and there'd be somebody else there, and you'd chat a little bit. You'd discover that they were a sports fan or not. And if they are a sports fan, you'd discover that they support Liverpool. I shouldn't laugh. I'm a Kaizer Chiefs and Manchester United supporter. It's been a horrible few years. And you'd know that about me if we were in the office together, because I would moan about it. I promise I do. If you follow me on Facebook, you'd see that. And you'd maybe overhear what I'm interested in. You'd also see me every morning. And you'd know if I arrive normally with a big smile on my face, bounding into the office with lots of energy. And if that's my normal arrival mode, energy, excited, and then one day I arrive and I just sneak into the office and I'm looking down and I'm sad, you wouldn't necessarily rush over to me and ask me about it, but you'd know something about me. And more importantly, I would know that you know. I would be seen and maybe heard if I was prepared to talk about it. But at least you'd know. One of the ways that you can do this in the digital world is to have connection meetings. Too often we just go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting every day, and we don't really build these personal connections. And it's not good enough to just have a 5-minute check-in at the start of a work meeting. I think what you need to actually do is have a separate connection meeting. And I would do it in a sort of ratio of 1:5, maybe 1:6 or 7. So if you have 5 working meetings that are updates, check-ins, to-do list, task-oriented meetings, for every 5 of those you have, I think you need to have 1 connection meeting where you're building relationships, connecting almost just relaxing together, having that chill time that you are missing from the office. It's necessary if you want to be a team. If you don't need to be a team, don't worry about it. But if you need to be a team, and if you want to work better as a team, do some connection, whatever that means. And in a hybrid world, maybe that's the reason to actually get together. Don't just get together for to-do list stuff and task stuff. Get together so that you can have those connections. And I'm not talking about socials in your spare time and in your evenings. I'm talking about this is work-related time of getting people to connect together. It's not happening automatically, and it's not happening by default in the corridors and at the water cooler, as the Americans call it. You've got to now put it deliberately into your system. Okay, enough of that, but you can see I'm passionate about this, and I think it's absolutely essential. One more example, and it's not an example really, it's more to put 3 words in your head. Teams, clubs, groups, families, get that sense of belonging and connection because there are rituals, routines, and rhythms to the world that we live in. If you're a family, maybe you choose to have breakfast together every morning, or maybe breakfast is chaotic, so you have dinner together. The family that eats together stays together, I think. You do stuff together. If you're a sports fan, this is the one thing we're missing as sports fans, is the ritual of going to the stadium once a week to support our team. But at least we switch on the TV now and we can watch our team and we can comment with our mates and moan about it on social media. But there's a ritual to it. I even wear the Manchester United shirts and the Kaiser Chiefs shirts. I show that I'm part of the tribe. We've lost those rituals in the office, in the physical office. And we need to build new rituals into our digital spaces. Again, there's no right answer. I could give you a list of 100 examples from other companies. Your question is to speak to your team and to say what rituals, what routines, what rhythms would work for us. What would make us feel connected and part of this team? And when you find the answer to that question, then do it, and do it as a ritual, a routine, and a rhythm. It will create that sense of belonging. Okay. Taking maybe too much time with that one, but that's the best place to start. If you don't get belonging right, you'll never get your team right. So start there. Secondly is mastery. Now, mastery is your confidence and competence to contribute. Okay, a lot of C's in there. Let's talk about that. It's about contribution. This comes from Dan Pink's model, but any model of motivation will talk about people's sense of contribution, that I am valuable, that what I do matters, that what I do makes a contribution to the team. That's when you really feel great about yourself. This is key to employee engagement, is that people feel I'm needed here and my contribution is seen and valued. And what people need to do is have the confidence, they need to know that they've got the mastery they need, and the competence. If one of those is missing, the other one becomes a bit dangerous. If people have the competence but no confidence, they'll disappear. They're not there for you. That's happened to some of your best people during lockdown. Not that they couldn't do the job, but maybe they didn't have the necessary resources. Maybe they're living in a home that doesn't have a space for them to really work. They don't have data access, so their confidence has been knocked. They can do what they need to do, but they just don't have the confidence to it. Maybe it's worse the other way around. If somebody's very confident, but they don't know what they're doing, they can break stuff. What we need to do to develop that mastery, well, again, there's a lot of things. You've got to continue training. A lot of companies stopped training during lockdown, stopped supporting people in developing them. We've got to give people positive feedback and take time to do team recognition, to recognize and celebrate people's contributions in front of everybody else. Again, this probably happened almost automatically in the office. Somebody's doing something, and then they make a sale on the phone, for example, and when they put the phone down, they go, yes! And then everybody in the office kind of can applaud and say, well done, you've done your thing, or contribution was made. And in front of everybody else. The boss says, "This is brilliant, Graeme, thank you." We're missing that now, and we need to bring that back into our digital world. Another thing you could do, just another example, again, there are hundreds of things you can do to help your team, your colleagues develop their mastery. But one of the things we probably need to focus on is helping our team to sort out their technology. I mentioned it a while ago, but if we are going to spend more time in video conferences, if we're going to spend more time connecting with each other via camera, well, then maybe it's worth upgrading your system. So you've got better lighting, so that you've got a better microphone. I just bought an external microphone. I've got some lights here. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and this costs 100 Rand or so for a ring light or two. You can get yourself an external webcam. All of that just makes you look better on camera, so it doesn't look like you're fading into your background and we can't really see your face. Maybe that's a way to just help your team improve mastery. Whatever you do, mastery is the second, and it's a very important component of building a healthy hybrid team, and especially important in developing employee engagement. The third aspect of our model is autonomy. Now, autonomy is, and the picture, I suppose, describes it most, is getting away from micromanaging. I think this is what people were initially, well, leaders and managers were initially concerned about with lockdown, that people wouldn't do the work that they were supposed to do, that when they weren't being supervised, there wasn't a supervision, an overvision of what they were doing, that they would get lazy. Now, maybe some of your people did get lazy, but you know what? They are lazy. That's not a lockdown or a working from home issue. That's a personality issue, and you need to deal with that. For most people, as I said earlier, it's been the opposite. We've probably worked harder than we've worked previously under lockdown. And what we don't want is micromanaging leaders kind of breathing over our shoulder and not giving us space. What we really need is a sense of independence and agency, which leads to, that's what the "and" is. This is a big word, isn't it? Trust. That people feel that they are trusted to get on with what they are competent to do. So autonomy can't come before mastery. You've got to have mastery so that we can trust people to get the job done. But we've got to show people that we trust them to get the job done. This, I think, is one of the biggest issues that's going to emerge in the future of work. It leads to an outputs-driven workplace where we're not counting people's hours anymore. We're not micromanaging when they start and when they finish work and how long their lunch hour is. We're just saying, here's the job that has to be done. Now, you work out when to do it. If you want to wake up early in the morning and do it then, if you want to take time out during the middle of the day because that's the best time for you to go and do shopping or relaxing, if you want to work in the evening, if you want to work over the weekend and take Monday off, I think that's part of it. That's part of this hybrid world, part of the flexibility I think people are going to be demanding of us, or they might move to another place that gives it to them. Now you might say, well, of course I trust my people. My question to you though is, how are you showing them that you trust them? In what ways have you demonstrated your trust? Or do you say you trust them with your mouth, but your actual policies, processes, procedures, systems, the things you measure, the meetings you schedule, all of that speaks another language, and it's the language of I don't trust you. I think there might be a lot for some of you to think about and work on. Now, the fourth area of the model, the fourth ingredient that we want to add to make a healthy hybrid team is generosity. Now, this doesn't mean charity and giving money away, although if your company is generous, that's part of people feeling good about it. But this is a spirit of generosity towards your colleagues. Maybe the best example is, how are we dealing with people who are struggling during COVID? who are exhausted, who hit a wall? Do we show empathy and care? Is there a human touch, a humanizing of our workplace? I've seen that with most of my clients. I hope that's been true of you. And for those of you who've needed help in the last few months, I hope you can thank your colleagues for giving that to you. That makes a great place to work. One of our clients has even instituted what they call Easy Fridays. It's not a long weekend, but it's basically saying, let's try to minimize the work we share with others on a Friday. So no meetings, don't send messages, don't send emails, don't contact your colleagues on a Friday. Let them try and use Fridays to catch up their work. I know other clients prefer Monday. I think that might be a better day than Friday to do that. Generosity is also about mentoring and reverse mentoring. It's about sharing your time with others. And this is especially important for senior leaders. I think it's been a lot easier to be a senior leader in business during lockdown. I think coming in as a junior, coming in as a new joiner in a business during lockdown must have been really, really tough. And to sort of develop, if you're a young person right now, trying to develop your career, grow your skill set, incredibly difficult when you're not together in the office. What we need is generosity from the senior leaders to give some of their time, to share some of their resources, to include junior people in some of the jobs and client meetings that need to have the kind of stuff you would have done in a physical world, you've forgotten to do in a digital world. Now, by the way, the reason that we need generosity in the system is because if you have mastery and autonomy and they run out of control, it can get crazy. If somebody says, I know what I'm doing, just leave me alone to get it done, well, they might actually get the job done, which might be fine, but it's not a team, right? That's not team dynamics. So again, if you don't need a team, then you don't need to worry about this. But if a team dynamic is important, then mastery and autonomy must be balanced out by that spirit of generosity. Hope that makes sense. Finally, then we have the issue of purpose. Now, this is not what we normally talk about when we talk about purpose. This isn't about your mission, vision, and values at Avon and about your company purpose. It's in fact exactly the opposite. I think that this hybrid workplace has caused not just work-life balance or work-life integration, as we used to call it. It's blurred completely our professional and our personal lives. And what we need to do now as companies and as leaders in companies is we need to be speaking to the individuals in our teams and saying, how can we help you achieve your purpose? See, it's the other way around. Wouldn't it be remarkable if we could build workplaces that allow people to have some autonomy because they are masters of their craft? We trust them to deliver the outputs that we need from them, and we don't count their hours. We don't legislate where they need to work or when they need to work. We have conversations on an ongoing basis to say, under what conditions will we get the best out of each other? Under what conditions will we do the best work? We have this flexibility that we need, and we allow people to organize the work that has to be done around their lives. We've done it the opposite way around for as long as we were working before COVID. We organized our lives around our work. We have our work Monday to Friday, or sometimes even over the weekend, 9 to 5, as the old Dolly Parton song says, but for most of us it was earlier and later than that. So we had that chunk, and then everything else was around that. What happens if we could do it the other way around? And we could say to somebody, what do you really get out of bed for in the morning? What do you really love doing? Who are the most important people in your life? What are the most important relationships? What's most important to you? How would you like to fit those into your weekly schedule? And then make sure that work fits in around that. Now, of course, what you're really hoping is that this becomes a partnership collaboration conversation where if you're asking people to organize their lives that way, one of their answers will be, well, the work I do is one of the things I love the most. And so that does get priority in my system. Well, that's what I mean by helping people to achieve their life purpose so that they can help you achieve your company purpose. Does that make sense now? These are 5 ingredients to develop a healthy hybrid team. There isn't a one-size-fits-all picture of what that team looks like. In fact, I like to say that the journey towards becoming a better, healthy hybrid team is in fact the destination. What do I mean by that? It's not as if the healthy hybrid team is just around the corner and you'll eventually discover what it looks like and you'll have the perfect blueprint and then you can just get on with it. The process of improving your hybrid team's health is never ending. It will never end. It is a journey that continues, and next week you'll be better than this week, and next month you'll be better than this month, and next year you'll be better than now, and you'll just get better and better. This is what you need to be focusing on. What do you need to be focusing on? Well, I don't know. You've got to try stuff. You've got to build a culture of experimentation. Have meetings and discussions with your team and ask them, how can we improve our sense of belonging? How can we improve the sense of mastery in our team? What can I do to show you I trust you more and that we trust each other? How can we improve our spirit of generosity, and are you achieving your life purpose? If you want to kickstart this and you've got a little bit of time, you can do one day next week. Belonging Monday, Mastery Tuesday, Autonomy Wednesday, and you can have half an hour meeting at the beginning of each day to kickstart it. Okay, some of you are just fainting, you don't have that time. So take it slightly slower. Go 1 week at a time now. Next week can be belonging. Schedule a meeting with your team, talk to them about what you learned in the session, and then say, right, let's try 2 things to improve belonging. And you do that for the rest of October. First week of November, you say, right, now let's focus on mastery. Let's have 2 or 3 ideas of things that we can do. And you try that for the rest of November. Maybe take a break in December. We're all busy. This is going to take a lot of time. Of course, do it as fast as you can, as fast as you want to, remembering that the journey is the destination. As long as you're on the journey, you're doing the right thing. And as long as you're trying things, even if some of those things don't work, it doesn't matter. Try it. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. Try something else. It's about having the conversations. For some of you, by the way, this means you have to think differently about leadership. You're going to have to learn new leadership skills to get you through the next few years. But that, I think, possibly is a conversation for another day. I think I've given you enough to think about and enough to work on. Hybrid teams are here to stay. There's a lot of reasons that that's true, and it's even more than you think, because I think the future of work is beginning to unfold for us. I think we have to change the way that we engage with our teams, and I think that there are 5 ingredients that you can add to your team dynamic that will help you to be a healthy hybrid team. Now, if everything's gone according to plan, I'm going to be available to do live Q&A, and you will have already put some questions into the chat box for us to engage with. If you haven't done so yet, you can put those questions in now. Either way, whether it has gone to plan or not, you're welcome to contact me at any stage in the future. Connect with me. Maybe the best thing to do is to follow me on YouTube and LinkedIn. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's YouTube and LinkedIn. It's all for free. But I put resources up, short videos, ideas that can help you. I put those up all the time. And hopefully they will give you some insights that will help you to develop healthy hybrid teams and have the right conversations as you become a leader for the 21st century. Thank you for your time. And now let's go to Q&A.